today's video we got the Frontline Chaos Lie mechanic figure, and this is the second one of the Frontline Chaos series, and this is being produced by Joytoy. I picked this up on Big Bad, and I also picked up another Frontline Chaos Rin. This is the first figure in the set, and the one that I had for the review, I was borrowing that from a friend, so this is my personal copy now. And actually, quickly before I get into the review of the mechanic figure, it doesn't have like some of the same issues the other one had, but I believe it does have the same problem with the elbow. So the elbow, you can see it like comes dislocated from the joint very easily. It's not like secured, so that's kind of lame. But so far that's the only problem that I found with the figure. Everything else is good, and the hair doesn't come off the head like the previous figure. So if you guys saw that review, you saw that the hair can come off. The hair doesn't come off here. It looks like it's actually glued on there. So I guess that was just like a mistake when they're producing the figure. But everything else is good. The button on the back of the skirt is not broken. It actually, you know, goes on and off easily, and it's not broken. It's pretty secure. So it doesn't have that problem like the previous figure had. So overall, this figure has better quality control than the previous one. When everything is good with the figure, when it works and nothing's messed up, like the figures are actually pretty good, and I'm able to enjoy the figures a lot more than when they have a bunch of problems. So that's cool. And now let's take a look at the brand new figure, the Lie Mechanic. This is the second one. First I'll show you the box. So the new box is actually considerably bigger than the previous one, and that's because it has more accessories with it. Also, the art is kind of done differently. This got me thinking like these figures are probably based off artwork from a particular artist. I don't know the artist who's working on these figures, but that's what it kind of looks like. Like somebody draws a design first and they make a figure of it, because the figures do have that kind of a cartoony style. The shoes or the feet are kind of big, and the way that the heads are sculpted, anime cartoony kind of style, and the way the clothes fit on the body also makes it look kind of cartoonish. So it's got its own style. It's not like realistic. I would have preferred a more realistic approach, but the way that the clothes are done here, it does add a realistic touch to it. So I do appreciate that. But let's get into the details of the figure. So we'll start off with the clothes. The clothes are kind of like a papery material, but it's not super thin, and it is thicker in some places. For example, you do have the patch on the knees here. That's a little bit thicker. You have the apron here with all the pockets for the tools. You also have the harness here. Reminds me of the X-Wing pilot suit from Star Wars. You got more pockets here, and all the pockets are pretty much usable, like they're actual pockets. You can put stuff in them. It does have a pouch right here which you can move, and all this stuff you can take it off. So right here you have the clasps that you can undo. I can't seem to undo it though. I can't pinch the things right there to take them off, and I don't want to risk breaking it. So, and there's pictures of what it looks like with all the belts off and stuff. Again, I don't want to take the chances of breaking it because something already broke on it, and that is the button that keeps the shirt together. So that seems like a running problem with these buttons. It's like a cheap, brittle, fragile kind of plastic, so you got to watch out for that because they will break. So the accessories, it comes with one extra robot hand and then an extra gloved hand for the other hand. So this is the right hand, this is the left hand, and on the figure it does come with a gripping robot hand and a gripping gloved hand, and it looks kind of like a trigger finger, but it doesn't come with any guns. But I guess you can put guns in it because it does have a trigger finger hand. Wrench, like a big wrench, and there's the handle attachment. So here's what the wrench looks like. Pretty nicely detailed. Again, it has like an exaggerated cartoony style to it. And then here's the other attachment. I'm not sure what this is. It kind of reminds me of like a gravity hammer from Halo. But it does have some nice detail on it. I'm not sure exactly what it's for, but it does go onto the attachment. It is a tight fit though, so you want to be careful about that, not to break the handle. But that's what it looks like. Obviously this looks a lot better, in my opinion. It's like a big monkey wrench. And she also does come with a hammer, more like a traditional hammer, I guess. Still has that kind of style to it though. And then she does come with a case. I guess the only thing you can really fit in there is the hammer. And it does open up. It doesn't hinge open, but it just kind of comes apart. So that's cool. But now let's get into the actual figure. Now I do have a couple, so there's some things that I do like about it, but there's some things that I'm not a big fan of. So first of all, the face is of course nicely executed. I wasn't a big fan of the head sculpt though. I mean the sculpt and the paintwork is fine, and the detailing is fine. I'm just not a big fan of the style that they went with. And again, you can do head swaps and stuff. It's easy to take the heads off. Now the articulation, same body as the previous one, but they fixed that problem with the elbows. So I don't have that problem on either of the elbows. So that's cool how they corrected it, or just this particular copy doesn't have that problem. And the whole close does not hinder the articulation. So the articulation, you get the same amount as before. You know, it rotates, it hinges out. You do have a bicep swivel, double joint elbows, goes that far, and then it goes a bit farther on the left hand, because the right hand has the robot part. It reminds me of like Hellboy. It does look like there could have been like finger articulation on the robot hand, but there isn't. So don't try to move the fingers, you'll break them off. But there is wrist articulation, so it's a hinge, and you can swivel the wrist. Then the torso articulation, I think there's two joints in there. There's an upper abdomen joint and a lower abdomen joint, and they both go forward that much, not a whole lot, and they do go back way further. And then it does swivel, of course. That's going to be hindered by the close, and you can tilt left and right a lot, so that's nice. A lot of range of motion there. Then with the hips, they do go out that far, and again, not hindered by the close. Can do the splits that far. I believe there is a thigh swivel. Actually, there might not be. I think it's swiveling at the top of the hip joint there, so it's not a thigh swivel. We do get double jointed knees, similar to the wrist joint on the ankle there. Not a whole lot of range out of the ankle, but you do get enough to, you know, get some cool poses. So that's pretty much the figure. I mean, after dealing with this figure, I don't think the design is as good as the first one, but I think it's still a decent figure. And I think the close is done nicely. So any head you put on it, it's gonna look pretty good. And speaking of putting different heads on it, we'll do some head swaps. Obviously the first thing you can do is just swap the heads from both of those figures. So I mean, that's not too bad. But one thing you have to watch out for when you're putting head sculpts from other lines is you're gonna have to put a lot of tack on the bottom of the head so that it'll fit properly on the neck. So that looks pretty cool, and this is pretty much why I bought it, to do head swaps and pictures and stuff like that. This is a McFarlane head, the unmasked Batwoman. You also want to be careful when you put the wrench in her hand. You don't want to bend the fingers too much. So that's what she looks like holding the wrench. So I don't think it's a very realistic style, but it'll fit next to other figures. So here's a general stalwart. I mean, the height, this figure is actually kind of taller than I expected. Here's a Voliverse figure. So that one's a little bit taller. And here's a Voliverse female body. And here's a G.I. Joe female body. And as you can tell, this body's way shorter than the Joytoy figure. So basically my biggest complaint is the amount of accessories. Like, these figures are 100 a pop, so I expected a lot more in terms of accessories. They do give you the big wrench, which is fine, but I would have preferred more like smaller tools rather than just one big one and then one hammer. especially when they give you the toolbox. Not really anything you can put in there. Here's another head swap, comic book Black Widow head. So with the accessories, you know, luckily I have some 1/12 scale tools from GPS lot, and these are die cast, and these look way better on the figure. Like, this looks much better. And again, these are the die cast tools for 1/12 scale figures from GPS lot on eBay, and you can pretty much put the tools wherever you want. There's a ton of pockets on the figure. One thing I do kind of wish also is that it came with a regular hand for the right arm, because I'm not a big fan of the mechanical arm here. I wish it was two like regular arms. You know, I'm not totally sold on that style. Like, this one didn't have anything like that, except the sniper rifle, which was kind of futuristic looking. But the figure itself, I think, is like rooted in reality. Like, it's like a real world design. But this one isn't like that because it's got the robot arm. But what you can do is, and the hands do come off easily. What you can do is give it one of the hands from the Rin sniper figure, so that it has two normal looking hands, and I think that makes the figure look way better. Here's another head swap. This is the Silk head from the Doc Ock and Silk 2-pack. So that looks pretty cool. Obviously this head looks pretty much good on everything. And of course, if you have a mechanic, you need something for the mechanic to work on. So here's a Kawasaki Ninja motorcycle, and this is of course for the 1/12 scale figures. You know, I can see a lot of potential for this, like a mechanic working on a motorcycle or on some kind of robot or Transformers, something like that. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say about this figure. I think it's a pretty cool figure. I definitely see a lot of potential and use I can get out of it, so I'm excited about that. But let me know what you guys think about the figure. Let me know what you think about the line. Let me know if you're gonna get this figure, or if you have this figure. If you have any problems with it, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.